Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Sam and I do a whole lot of cruelty-free and vegan living, beauty, and lifestyle content here on YouTube. So if that seems up your alley, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the family. I would love to have you. Friends, I have curled and re-curled my hair today, and like this side is kind of doing it. I mean, when I curled it, it was really tight and I left it tight for a while, put hairspray on it, came back to it an hour later and tousled it out, and it's just falling today. Anyway, I might have straight hair by the end of this video. But today we are featuring spooky vibes makeup here on this channel, and we are talking only exclusively about Aether Beauty. This video is what I like to call a deep dive on my channel. I'm going to be jumping into new releases from Aether, talking about some product reviews because I do have several new products from Aether, all of which I am featuring on my face today in some which way, shape, or form. More coffee, more coffee. But we are also going to be diving into this brand's ethics. I'm going to be introducing you to the brand in a way if you haven't heard about them before. And if you have heard about them, there are a lot of changes going on at Aether. I basically am looking at them as if they're just a whole new brand. So let's go ahead and jump into this video. I'm going to be swatching the new Moonlight crystal palette for you, talking about lip products from Aether. I'm just going to be talking about the new changes. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start with swatches because I know what you came here to see. This is the new Moonlight crystal palette. I will let you get a glance at it first. This is what I'm wearing on my eyes today. Today I kind of combined these purple shades over here on the outer corner into the middle of the eye. I used this guy in the crease, and then I used this gorgeous lavender shimmer shade on the inner corner, and I am living for this like Halloween-y vibe. And I think the look I'm wearing on my eyes today is a perfect example of how this palette is way more versatile than you would think. Because I don't know about you, but I don't look at this palette and think Halloween or anything really that dark or spooky, but I was able to get this look today, and I've been able to get so many interesting looks out of this palette. Watch my last few videos, I've been wearing this a ton, but I'm just going to start swatching on my arm here for you guys. While I am swatching these, I'm going to tell you guys a few of my just like base thoughts on this eyeshadow palette since I've been using it. I have been fangirling over this palette since Tila, the founder, first announced it, because I think there's something about sapphires that has just like always drawn me in. Sapphire jewelry, just the tone of really pretty like deep hued blue sapphire specifically. Not necessarily for their like astrological meaning. I'm not even sure I know what their astrological meaning is. When you look at this, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Genuinely, truly. I want to know if you thought the same thing I did. This is perfect for brown eyes, and therefore perfect for the majority of the population. But also, and I already mentioned this already, this palette has so many endless ways you can combine the shades and colors, which is actually something that I would say is true of all Aether palettes. In my opinion, Aether palettes do two things very well. They have a great formula that will work on varying skin tones, but then also they have curated and thought through the exact hue, tone, and shade of all of the colors in their palettes, not only so that they are usually somewhat neutral pulling, even if they're a little like cool or warm leaning, they're always coming back to kind of a neutral base so that they are more likely to work on anyone, but then they are also formulated so that they just work perfectly together. You can choose any 2 shades in this palette, any 4 shades in this palette to create an eye look, and it will turn out looking good, which almost brings like a whole new definition to the term beginner friendly. And the formula of the previous Aether palettes, which we're also going to talk about, Aether changed their formula starting with this palette. We're going to talk about how it's different, but the original Aether formula that a lot of you may be familiar with if you've tried Aether was very beginner friendly because it didn't have insane pigment. Well, let's pause here and talk about these swatches for a second. I swatched all of the like shimmery and duochrome shades first, and then I have the mattes down here. I'm not sure the lighting in the room I'm in right now is going to do justice to just how, oh, there we go, how insanely shimmery and light catching some of these shades are. And then we've got some duochrome shades here that shift in the middle. And then one of the most beautiful things about Aether that we don't always talk about is how pretty their matte shades are. Because a lot of the time when any influencer or the brand itself talks about Aether, they talk about the fact that all of their eyeshadows are formulated with, I'm gonna take you back out. All their eyeshadows are formulated with crystals, right? That's why it's called like Moonlight Crystal Palette or whatever. This one is not just sapphire inspired. It actually has ethically sourced sapphires in it. That's the awesome part of this brand. They also have a rose quartz palette that has ethically sourced rose quartz in the shades. I digress. If you've tried Aether before, you might be looking at these colors and be thinking they're a little more vibrant than what you've seen in Aether in the past. They're also a bit more pigmented. Altogether, being someone who has used my two other Aether products, or palettes I should say, many times in the past, I have the Summer Solstice palette and the Joshua Tree palette right here. Having used those a lot in my time doing makeup, I can say that this formula is not just a tweaked improvement. It's a very big, significant difference from what you've seen from Aether in the past, which is exactly why I didn't want to do this video without pulling out at least one of those palettes and swatching it for you. I chose the Summer Solstice palette simply because if you're not familiar with Aether, this is a similar layout in terms of finishes to the Moonlight Crystal palette that we just swatched, whereas the Joshua Tree palette that I have from Aether is all matte shades. So what I actually think I'm gonna do is do side-by-side swatches on this arm of like a duochrome shade from this palette. I'll swatch it again on this arm next to a duochrome shade from the Summer Solstice palette, and maybe the same with like two matte shades and two shimmer shades so you can kind of see the difference between the pigment. I'm gonna do that real fast. I'll be right back. Gosh darn it, Samantha. I should have held my arm like this when I was swatching. I'm so sorry. Let me get closer so you can actually see it. Starting with these top shades, these are just kind of shimmer shades in the palette. All of these swatches are going to be old formula, new formula. Old formula top, new formula bottom. So just between these two, you can kind of tell that the bottom one pops. And I promise you, I really did my best to swatch both shades from both palettes evenly. The old palette, as you will kind of see is a trend down all of these swatches, is just a little bit dustier of a formula, therefore you can build it up, but it's just going to be a lot softer around the edges, whereas these go on quite bright and are still a little dusty, which I personally like, and we'll talk about why, but there's a lot more power packed in the new formula. Moving down to the matte shades in both palettes, this is like burnt orange shade, is the old formula matte, and then this gray, sorry, I accidentally got some sparkle on my finger before I swatched it, so there might be a tiny bit of sparkle in it. There's not supposed to be. Again, same difference you can see here. The matte is still faded on the edges, still very blendable, but this one up here comes across much dustier, a little harder to build up, although you can. And overall, when you're using this shade versus this shade as a matte, your experience is going to be that this gives you a nice wash of color, but you may not be able to build it up quite like you can with this one. And then we're down to these two duochrome shades at the bottom. The top one in the original formula from the Summer Solstice palette is supposed to be like a gold shift pink. Maybe you can see that. And then this one from the new palette is like kind of purple shift blue, but also just purple shift iridescent. I don't know how to describe that. And I think the duochrome shades in the two palettes are a really good example of how the formulas are different, because you can see here, not only does this have a little more pigment to it, it packs a little bit more of a punch in that way, it's also just brighter, more light catching, more kind of just electric. Okay, so now that you've seen the entire new palette swatched here, as well as some comparisons, I hope you're getting a vibe for what changes came with the new formula, but we have a lot more changes to talk about that we're gonna get into right now. I'm going to start by talking about the eyeshadow palettes because that is like the product that got Aether started. That was the first thing that they ever made. Let's start with packaging. And none of the packaging changes really bother me except one thing, and I am gonna start with that. Just get it out of the way. Side by side, Summer Solstice, new one. Aether. Why didn't you put the shades on the back of the new packaging? This one came with like a plastic overlay on top of these shades that told me the names of the shades, and these shades do have names, but I didn't even bother to mention them in this video, and I won't in future videos, because if you buy this, me telling you the shade name that I'm using isn't gonna help you at all, because you're not gonna know what that is in your palette either. If it doesn't have shade names on the back of it for you to reference, it's just easier for me to point to the individual ones I'm using or describe them to you. And you know what? It would be fine if Aether Aether wanted to just like not name their shades anymore. Like that's not necessary, I guess. It's fun, right? But it's more so like a marketing tool more than anything. But the fact that they did still name it and then don't have anything once you actually throw away like the packaging, which everyone is going to do. I'm not going to keep that plastic insert in here all the time. The shades were also on the back of the box that it came in. Also not going to keep that. Anyway, that is the thing that is bothering me about this new packaging. I wish that I could actually see it on the back of here. The only reason that I could think of as to why they may have removed that is if you haven't actually looked at like a current Aether palette that you own, the label on the back that shows all of the colors is not printed on the cardboard. It is a sticker. I don't want to peel it up too much, but like a sticker that you can peel up. And since Aether is trying to move more and more with every release towards sustainability, I wonder if the way that they were sourcing those stickers made this package less recyclable or sustainable. Because I'm sure the glue or plastic that goes into these stickers, well, I'm sure even getting stickers that are biodegradable would be difficult, but I would imagine it would be very expensive to put biodegradable stickers on your packaging. Or if Aether wasn't paying for biodegradable stickers, recyclable stickers, then that part of the package would be one thing that they would want to remove to make it more recyclable or eco-friendly. Maybe that is why they didn't put the sticker on here. And you know what? If that is why, I am more than willing to part with a sticker that gives me the names of the shades in this palette for the sake of the planet. But in that case, I just think it's still a little silly to give them names. Just don't name them. Anyway, if that is my biggest qualm with this packaging, then Aether's doing a pretty good job. The other huge change that we've seen between this and this is that the old packaging had this elastic band, and it says on the website, this band is the only thing that you really need to remove before you recycle your package. New packaging is brilliant for so many reasons. The improvement that they made was really just the closure. There's no band anymore holding it together. Instead, it's got a box-like structure on the flap that fits beautifully into here. Listen to that. I do not have to worry about this opening on its own, and it gets rid of that band. So now Aether can say, hey, when you've used this up completely, just throw it in the recycling bin. You don't have to remove anything, you're done. And that's pretty nifty. But now for the biggest announcement, I think. If you follow Aether on Instagram or have looked at their website recently, you've probably caught on to this. But I've noticed they haven't really advertised this part of their rebrand. You can't buy the old Aether palettes anymore. I'm talking Joshua Tree, Summer Solstice, Crystal Gemstone, Rose Quartz, Amethyst palette. I'm sure I'm missing one. But the point is, all of the original Aether palettes are discontinued. And I think that is upsetting to very many people. Only because the original Aether palettes were so revolutionary is the word. Sorry if the angle just changed a little bit. I had to replace my battery. Where was I? Revolutionary. It may sound a bit dramatic, but Aether was, when they released, revolutionary for all of the reasons I've already mentioned in this video. Real-life crystals used in their formula. Ethically sourced mica, ethically sourced crystals, ethically sourced ingredients, period. Sustainable packaging, incredible formulation, and makeup of palettes, colors that work together and colors that work on varying skin tones. All of that has been true of Aether this entire time. And to those of you out there who, like me, were very sad to hear that the old Aether palettes were gone, or at least changed, like the Rose Quartz palette, we'll get to that. I think we can take solace in the fact that Aether will continue to do all of those things. I think they're just kind of inherently asking us to be patient while they release new products. And unlike the previous Aether that we saw, new Aether is releasing products like crazy. I wanted to say that the Moonlight Crystal palette was the newest release of theirs, like kind of once they discontinued all the old stuff, the first thing they released after that. But I don't think that's true. I think it's the new Rose Quartz palette, which I will put a picture up here of the new Rose Quartz palette, and I will put a picture below it of the old Rose Quartz palette. The new Rose Quartz palette I have not tried, and I'm debating if I want to buy it or not. I didn't buy the old Rose Quartz palette because it was very cool toned, while still neutral leaning, and I felt like so many of the shades were just my skin tone and wouldn't show up on me. But I know the Rose Quartz palette was one of the biggest, most successful old Aether palettes. I think that's why they brought it back so quickly, and I think this new one was the new release that kind of launched this rebrand. But it is important to note that if you haven't already heard this already, this palette up here, the new palette, does not just have the same shades but a new formula. Compared to the old one, it actually has a bunch of new shades. It only kept 2 of the original 10 shades. 12 Yeah, I think the new palette has 10. And that's another big difference between the two, is that the new Rose Quartz palette has less pans. The new one actually speaks to me a little bit more than the old one did, even though I never tried the old one and I'm sure it was great. The shades in this new palette, they look a little more pigmented and like they might show up on my skin tone a little better. So you might see me buying this new Rose Quartz palette, but I have a budget for this channel right now and I have a lot of products I want to try, so we'll see. But to wrap up the eyeshadow palette talk from Aether, the only two palettes that are now available are the Moonlight Crystal palette, this guy, and the new version of the Rose Quartz palette. Those are the only two eyeshadow palettes you can buy from Aether. How crazy is that? But I have no doubt that Aether is going to release at least, here's my prediction, at least 2 more eyeshadow palettes, if not like 3 or 4 in the next calendar year. I also wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing varying numbers of pans and palettes. A big reason why some people speculate that Aether changed the Rose Quartz palette to have less pans in it is so they could make it more affordable for people, because the new palette is a $10 difference from the original Rose Quartz palette. We're talking $48 for the new one, $58 for the old one. And then this 12 pan palette still is $58. So it's looking like 12 pans you can get for $58, 10 pans you can get for $48, which is a huge difference. You wouldn't think it would be like a $5 cost per pan. And now, speaking of things that I want to spend all of my money on and did, let's talk about the Aether Beauty lip creams. These were recently out of stock for months, if not a year. For a while, I think they were just an exclusive that you could buy on Sephora, but now they are available on the Aether website and back in stock, so I bought 3. I couldn't help myself. I am a lip product junkie. If you have watched my channel for a while, you know this. I would happily be able to count how many foundations I have on one hand and then have 50 lip shades. That is just, I love having a ton of lips to choose from. And I actually got what I think would be arguably the 3 most attractive shades to you guys, just because they're all kind of the neutral shades that are offered in the Ruby lip creams. Let me swatch them for you. Okay, I really built them up here so that you can see how pigmented they get. In order, this is Protect, which I would describe as like a soft mauve brown shade. Self-Love, which is coming across a little more vibrant on camera, and even a little orange pulling. It does have a tiny bit of orange in it, but I would describe it more so as like a subtle wearable hot pink. And then we've got Motivate down here, which is just this kind of bubblegum, gorgeous, tulipy rose shade. I am running out of places to swatch things on my body. Thankfully, that is it for the swatches today. But I do want to say that these look quite creamy on my hand and are creamy when applied, but dry down to be quite matte. I am actually wearing Protect on my lips today, this nice deep mauve shade. I did combine it with another lip product in the center that is a lot more brown, and I used the Mented lip liner in M5, which is a very deep brown as well, so I think it's a little more brown pulling on my lips right now, but as you can see, it does dry down to a very matte finish. That's the word I was looking for. Let me tell you my thoughts. I don't think I can explain to you how different they will be from any expectation you have if you have not tried them before. They are easily one of the most lightweight lip products I've ever used. What I would say is the selling point to me, if I were to convince you to buy one of these, I feel like this is a good point to pause and say this is not sponsored, I just like these, is the blended edges that the product naturally gives. If you place it where you want it and give it the time it needs to dry down, the edges of your lips will look diffused in the most beautiful way. It's incredible. I really suggest that you try one of them. And the other thing that I will throw in here, and actually since these haven't dried down fully, let me like dip in to the Self-Love shade. If you tap this onto your lips, you 100% can sheer it out. So you can apply these lightly or you can build them up. And the most incredible thing is that they are hydrating. And once they do dry down, they are so miraculously comfortable on the lips, even though it is a very much matte formula. The best way I can describe the feeling of it is if you were to have the most hydrated lips, I don't know how you did it, let's say you put on your favorite lip balm, let it soak in, and then powdered the top of your lips. Touching my lips together feels a little bit powdery, feels very matte. There is nothing moisturized about the top of my lips. and the feel of them, but that is almost like the thin layer on top, and underneath you still maintain, and you can tell you have these plump, juicy, hydrated lips. Okay, I think I've ranted enough about these lip products. I have really been enjoying them, and I do also have to say, this morning when I am filming this video, I was looking on Aether's Instagram page and they just hinted at a new product they're coming out with, and it almost made me put off filming this video because they are releasing so many new things in this like relaunch. They haven't actually explicitly said it yet, but if you're like following the hints that they are giving out, it's a mascara. Aether is coming out with a mascara. Don't try to convince me otherwise. Today, their like hint picture on Instagram was of a woman's incredible lashes, like that's what it is. But all of their hints up until now have been talking about like crushed black diamonds, which would also fit mascara, right? And I am so excited to try that too, but I was like, girl, if I just wait to film a video until Aether is done releasing new products, I will just never film it. So I might do another video all about Aether, just like a new release kind of thing. If I get like, let's say the Rose Quartz palette, the new one, and the mascara. There are also some other products from Aether that I want to try that I haven't yet, like their liquid highlighter serum thing. But I think I've taken up too much of your time already. You know what I didn't mention, and I'm just now realizing it? Aether's changed the way that they spell their name. It went from Aether to Aether. Pronounced the same way, but that kind of came a little while ago. It wasn't even with this like relaunch branding thing that they're doing right now. By the way, I am calling it a rebrand or relaunch thing. They are not calling it that. That's just what it feels like to me. Anyway, moral of the story is Aether is a female-owned, operated, and founded company that is sustainable, ethically sourced, has incredible packaging, incredible formulas. And the best way that I can describe my trust in them to you is if I see a product on their website where the image doesn't just like jump out at me as like something I would fall in love with, like the Moonlight crystal palette images did. Like when I first saw this online, I was like, I have to have it. If I've ever been on the fence in the past or will be in the future about an Aether product, I am far more likely to purchase a product and trust that it has been formulated with the utmost care and insight into real human people's skin tones and wants and desires when it comes to makeup. And that is not something that I can say about many other brands. In fact, most of the time if I'm on the fence about a beauty product, I stray away from buying it because I'm a YouTuber that reviews beauty. I have enough makeup in my collection. I don't need more unless I actually think it's going to be worth reviewing or something that you guys could potentially like. But Aether is different for me. I genuinely truly trust this brand, which is why I also have trust in them that wherever they are going with this new relaunch is going to be incredible. If you guys have any thoughts on Aether products you have tried or on all of these new changes coming for this brand, please leave them in the comments down below. I would love to chit chat with you guys and see what you guys have to say to each other about this brand. I will leave a link to the Aether website down below and also individual links to these products that I'm talking about today in case you're curious. Again, this video is not sponsored in any way. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you guys. So I am going to rock this like spooky vibe that I have going for the rest of the day in this turtleneck and my pineapple earrings. I hope you guys go on to rock your day wherever you are. And I can't wait to catch up with you guys in my next video. So I will see you then. Bye.